Hello, my name is Waylon Lewis, and every week we'll bring you a new podcast with Elephant Journal.
All right, I'm with Danny Walsh of Big Steak. So, I think people think of coffee as coffee. They love coffee. Everyone drinks coffee every day. It's one of the world's most popular beverages, if not the most, behind water.
At least in America, number one drink.
Yeah. Number one. And yet we think very little bit about what we're drinking. There's a lot of trust in there, which is funny because half the country at least votes for Republicans who don't want regulations on things. So we have no idea what we're drinking or where it came from or how it was made, but you do. So tell us all about it.
Sure.
Get us through that.
Yeah, totally.
That juicy list.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are like, it's coffee. Coffee is coffee. I just personally, I don't agree with that.
Well, it's not coffee because water could be filthy and poisoned or,
totally.
Let alone who's
input
making
equals output. And so, I think the first thing that appeals to the most people is like, for example, I have people who are like, is there mold in the coffee? They're afraid that there might be mold in coffee. In reality, the thing that to be most afraid of, in my opinion, is actually pesticide. Coffee is more likely than any other crop to have pesticide farming involved in its growing.
One of the quotes I always say, because I'm a little bit daft, and a lot of people are daft because so much is going on, we don't think about it. Pesticides is a fancy word for poison. We all know that, but when you say it that way, you're like, wait, poison in my coffee? I don't want that.
Right.
Even in small amounts. I don't want that.
Totally. So how do you find poison-free coffee? Well, I mean, a lot of people ask me, is the organic certification legit or does organic coffee matter? And it's like, that is the way to certify that pesticides or glyphosate was not used in the farming practices. So I think it absolutely matters. It doesn't necessarily need the USDA organic seal, but if they're selling it on the shelf with the word organic before the word coffee, it means that they are sourcing organic.
And the certification is pretty rigorous, even if it's imperfect.
It is.
So if you do see like the organic label, and we'll get into other labels later. Wait, where it is? There it is. That does guarantee that there's not pesticides in your coffee.
Yeah. So, I mean, look for organic. And that's really important for your health. Another one is a lot of people would not even believe this, but if you're drinking coffee from a big brand, or if you aren't sure where your coffee is coming from, there's a high probability that slave labor, child labor, or exploited labor was involved in growing. And the same is with the chocolate industry.
Right.
But, that is one of the most unsettling thoughts, is that you might be contributing to a supply chain of slave labor.
So when you say child labor or slave labor, like these are people who are working more or less against their will for no money without basic freedom.
Right.
Probably under rough conditions.
Right.
Yeah. That still blows my mind that slavery would come anywhere near to anything I would be eating or drinking or paying for, let alone supporting actively.
Totally.
With my money.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's where looking for some sort of labor certification with the coffee that you're drinking is important. Fair trade is the common one.
Yeah.
And
another
one
certified, that's like rigorous. There's issues and arguments around it. We've interviewed people on both sides of that, including fair trade, whatever they're called, the fair trade organization.
Yeah, fair trade. And then people talk about direct trade. And my answer is, between the two, do your homework. Just figure out if the supply chain is paying fair wages to all the farmers involved.
Like, it's pretty easy, fun homework, because usually if it's direct trade, let alone fair trade, the coffee company is actively bragging in a good way about like, this is the people we work with and this is where we go. And, you have to decide if you believe them, if it's direct trade.
Totally. Right.
Because it's not like an official channel.
And these two things, right? And they should be table stakes, or just, it's like, are you kidding me? Like,
it's basic.
You should assume that if you're drinking or eating a product, it isn't farmed by slaves or has poison in it.
Yeah.
More likely than not, both of those things would be true if you haven't done your homework on that.
Yeah. And to put that again in really like, layman's terms for people like me, any cafe you're ever going to, or any coffee you're buying at the grocery, if it doesn't have these certifications, involves slave labor, child labor, and or pesticides, poison.
And I would say there's a high probability.
High
I
probability.
wouldn't say
Not
that's
always.
necessarily
Okay.
exact-
Not quite that bad, but
There are some genuine farms that,
Yeah.
just can't afford the cert, but the cost of the certification from the third party is almost nothing compared to what the upside of helping transparently say that to your customers
Yeah.
are. So thinking they don't have it is a high chance that they.
and a shout out to organizations like Rodale that will help pay for companies to transition and get that certification. So there is financial help for farms, et cetera, to do that.
Totally.
Okay. So we haven't even touched on what people love about coffee yet, which is like the taste and the quality.
Totally.
So once we hopefully got poison out of our coffee and hopefully got slavery and child labor out of our coffee, can we focus on taste and quality now, or is there other?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So for taste and quality, especially if you drink it black, that comes through the specialty coffee scale you're looking for, something that scores high in the specialty coffee scale. And the higher quality the input, the higher quality the taste. So specialty coffees really kind of the association is how you measure like quality, right? One thing that we found is the growing practices play a big role. A lot of these flavor notes that you might taste have to do with the origin where the coffee's grown.
That makes sense.
And what's growing nearby. If you taste blueberries in your light roast, it's probably because there are blueberries also growing nearby. Yeah.
Wow.
And
I never thought about that.
And so that's where some of those nuances of flavor come from. And of course the roast level. But, I think another big one when it comes to, not all coffee is created equal is the environmental piece, the environmental implications of coffee farm, and how once again, that probability more likely than not is most coffee is actively creating economic forces that are plowing down the rainforest in a world where we're losing the rainforest at a football field every 5 or 6 seconds. So,
which is heartbreaking.
That's
insane.
In the 70s, they basically started clear cutting the rainforest and growing coffee directly in the sun. Even though that's not how it evolved to grow, it allows it to grow faster. More crop yields,
right?
You can get more. So
as long as you have limitless supply of water, because you're kind of losing all the moisture and all that, you're cutting down the rainforest.
Yep.
So it's kind of short-sighted, but
so some, most practices, it's like 97% of coffee grown is sun grown. So they had to clear cut in order to do that. Whereas
97%,
that's approximate, but
okay,
that's about the figure. And what you can look for to try to figure out who is actually doing things right. Coffee evolved in the shade. It wants to grow with other plants around it under the canopy of the rainforest. And when it does grow that way, you'll find that it's less acidic, less harsh on the body. It's more nutrient rich. And not only that, you're also helping protect an entire ecosystem. You're helping, offset, carbon because you're keeping the trees plants rather than cutting them all down. So
all those wild animals,
there's all the ecological
all those
benefits.
Birds with medicinal benefits can continue to thrive.
Exactly.
And you were saying, people have less stomach troubles, or they say that often.
Yeah, I find people who drink coffee that is shade grown, and especially if it's generative, they're able to find that certification. They report that if the coffee is less acidic and doesn't upset their stomach as much, they can drink it black that they otherwise couldn't drink black.
Right.
And
so many people, just my friend Amy about just with her was like, I have to put tons of sugar and milk in coffee because I can't handle it straight.
Totally. And input equals output, right? Bad inputs doesn't taste great. Good at like high quality sourcing, you might find that you can drink it black.
Right.
That was all the difference, right?
Right.
And so for
and that's where I was saying, that's so similar to the gluten-free community when they are like, we can eat this amazing bread in Europe and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Like we're fine.
Totally. Yeah, like the heirloom wheats. They're not GMO. And like we were talking about like a farmer's market. Like you can go, if you went to the farmer's market, if you remember the first time you did that and you bought like a carrot, it's like, why is this the best carrot I've ever had?
Yeah. And you feel better. Yeah. Like, as you were saying, it's nutrient rich. It's not just like one of those sad, like little whittled carrots been polished by some machine that goes on the plastic tray that is served at the low rent like college event or whatever.
Exactly.
Those carrots are sad.
Totally.
They're sad.
Dude, they are sad.
Yeah.
And when I was going into business, I was like, I'm not going to start another business in this modern age unless it's better than what's out there from environmental sustainability perspective. So I was like, I need to source the most sustainably grown coffee that I possibly can. And then just a totally unintended consequence was that I found out that it's less acidic. I measured our brewed coffee with a pH meter, and I found out that it's almost a whole point less acidic than conventional coffee.
Wow.
And so I started putting low acid coffee on the front of the bag because relatively it's true. And a lot of people were saying, well, low acid coffee, how did you do that? And it's just fascinating that when you choose to do something that's better for the earth, it also ends up being better for your health.
And better for taste, right?
And tastes great too.
Yeah.
And so for looking for companies that are manufacturing coffee to try to find something that is environmentally sustainable, you want to look for a few different things. If you can, look for bird friendly.
Okay.
That is a way to validate that they haven't cut down all the trees. That means the birds are still thriving in that ecosystem. It's you're making a business case against deforestation if you can find bird-friendly coffee.
So the birding community for sure needs to get behind regenerative, shade-grown, bird-friendly coffee.
Not just for the birds.
Yeah.
And then you got, shade-grown isn't an official certification, but ask your barista, ask your coffee company, are you shade-grown, right?
Yeah.
Regenerative is a new cert that you'll start to see on bags, and that's
right.
Let's do it. That's this guy right here, the ROC by the Regenerative Organic Alliance.
So, it's pretty new to me.
So look for that one. That's not just organic, but regenerative organic. It means you're preserving topsoil. You're not causing deforestation. You're keeping habitats intact. You're keeping the soil farming and keeping communities healthy by not allowing glyphosate to spray everywhere and give everybody cancer in the community of the growing, of the farming.
And is glyphosate the same as Roundup or?
Yeah, it's in Roundup.
Yeah. So is not good stuff. We've had various folks on Walk the Talk show talking about glyphosate. So then Glyphosate Girl, who I'm mad at you because you supported Trump. But yeah, you know, the Maha thing. But our worst environmental president in history. Not healthy. But one thing we can all unite and get behind is organic, not slave labor, not child labor, not glyphosate, coffee that's delicious. And then let's talk about the price.
I mean, so that's the biggest thing is like, oh, wow, okay, that sounds fancy. Coffee, all coffee. I usually just like whatever's cheap. And like, cool, I totally get that. And I think my biggest argument to that is like, great, if you go out to the coffee shop, you're paying $6, $7, $8+ for your drink. Yeah. So my answer is buy really high quality coffee and brew it at home, and you're probably looking at $1 per serving or less. Yeah. And that's like what our coffee comes out to. Right. Less than $1 a cup. So if you're really frugal, start brewing coffee at home and stop spending your $8 latte.
Yeah. None of which goes to the slaves. None of that $8. Yeah. The slaves are getting it. It's insane. Like, what kind of world are we in 2025 when like out of sight, out of mind is such a powerful and evil thing? Because it allows us to like enjoy our beautiful cup of coffee and kind of disassociate from the fact that like slaves are involved. I mean, it's just nuts to me, let alone cutting down a football field of rainforest, you know, every 5 or 6 seconds.
Totally.
Like you said. So you started Peak State. Tell us more about your company. Been around 5, 6 years?
We're a 5-year-old coffee roaster here in Boulder. We have just grown naturally, just
organically. You were about to say organically.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I don't want to make that pun. But yeah, we've just grown at a rate that I've always believed that if you're serving unmet needs, then the business will grow at the rate that you're serving unmet needs. So we've never really tried to push too hard or really raised any investment money. We're just going to your local farmers market, letting people know it exists, trying to educate people about some of these choices that we're making. You know, it's like eggs, right? If you're feeling ethical and rich, you buy the pasture raised. If you're feeling poor, you don't, or whatever. And it's like, it's like, that's the world we're in. I just try to play my part by explaining that not all coffee is created equal. And, you know, it's
if I'm feeling ethical and poor, I just have to say, I don't buy any eggs. I'm feeding. So let's talk about like what's frustrating and what's inspiring. So when you're serving coffee, like on the mall or whatever in Boulder, like I see guys around, What is like, do you get inspiring reactions where people are like, oh my God, I didn't know about slavery, or oh, it's regenerative, or, oh, I love the eco packaging or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what's inspiring around the education piece or the public facing piece?
I think what's inspiring is that,
And we'll talk about what's not inspiring.
yeah,
after.
sure. Yeah, what's inspiring is that some people care and they actually do something about it. And they look at it as, voting with their wallets and,
Love that.
creating the world that they want to see through the products that they buy. And, the other side of that coin is how uninspiring it is when people compare what you're doing to like just something that is the cheapest product on the shelf. And they say, yeah, you're out of your mind. I'm going to keep buying this thing that's the cheapest thing on the shelf.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is like fine if you're talking about a neutral commodity that isn't actively destroying your own health and the planet. But if it's like something that, is going to destroy your health, poison, even if you don't care about slave labor or children, poison in your cup of coffee. And that's why I'm always like, why do people drink to go? It's in a plastic lined bleached paper cup, usually. The plastic lid that generally isn't recyclable, and recycling plastic is toxic and impractical anyway. And it involves lots of new plastic usually. So like, drink it for here, bring your coffee mugs for here, and you're healthier. But in the exact same way, if someone's like, I can save $1 on my coffee, but poison myself slowly over time. I mean, there's a reason cancer rates and all that have gone crazy in the world. So yeah, you can save money on the back end, I guess is what I'm saying, by not getting cancer, getting sick, and by giving your children and grandchildren a habitable planet that's fun for birds and all of us.
I would say the organic premium, what you pay as an add-on to the conventional to get organic is far less than what you pay for the healthcare costs of dealing with, downstream implications of cancer or something like that.
And if you live in a civilized country where they have free healthcare that everyone pays for, it's still, your coffee is actively destroying the planet and the people who work on it, or healing the planet and being good for the people who work with it.
Exactly. I mean, that's the truth. Is what we do to the planet, we do to ourselves. You choose to buy our environmentally sustainable product or an organic product, you're also creating a world. And like literally, I'm talking about like your direct atmosphere, the air around you, the water around you.
Yeah.
You are benefiting from that cleaner air, that cleaner water because you're choosing to buy something that's more environmentally sustainable.
Yeah. I always say that, like when people are like, I don't believe in climate crisis. I'm like, would you lock your car in a garage and just hang out with it idly? No. So you believe in pollution being bad for you. So that's just what we're talking.
Yeah.
So tell me about packaging, because we've had a lot of conversations about it. Plastic is made out of fossil fuels. A lot of people don't really realize that in a funny way. It is climate crisis. Plus it's toxic for our health and you can't ever get rid of it. So it becomes microplastics. Not good for our health again. So you've tried some, old school / alternative packaging solutions, including this, a tin. And you were saying it's actually like cheaper than you charge less or did compared to the plastic packaging. And yet people often wanted the plastic packaging.
Yeah, people do what they're used to. Changing behaviors. We developed these are aluminum. Aluminum is one of the most recyclable materials because it can be infinitely recycled.
100% recycled, 100% recyclable.
Whatever, they geothermally melt it down, then you could reuse it again. But you can also refill it. We do a refill program. We work with Nude Foods too. They're awesome. Shout out Nude Foods. We love you guys. They do the refillable jars. So.
Nude Foods is a zero waste-ish grocery here in Boulder. They say they're not zero waste focused anymore, but they're mostly zero waste. And as you can see, this is mine actually from my freezer. You can just get coffee and all manner of things in glass and then return it.
I would love advice. Anybody watching this, let's have a conversation, because here's where I started was, why isn't all coffee packaging home compostable? So I started with a home compostable line. And then as we grew, we found that the material wasn't as durable.
Right.
Some product would explode in the mail. I had customers telling me, your brand's so cheap, your packaging is so cheap. I'm like, listen, I'm paying
twice as much to do the right thing for you.
The right thing. Shelf life was cut in half. Now there's negative environmental implications to how much product is being wasted.
Right.
Because of the shelf life being cut in half, we'd have to throw product away.
But I mean, I know but it's good for people to think about also that shelf life itself is an environmentally like toxic term. You don't want things to stick around forever that are alive and are healthy.
Totally, yeah.
Like things naturally should compost and fall apart.
Yeah.
And mold and all that. So you want things when they're fresh.
Yeah, oxygen specifically makes coffees not last as long. It oxidates. So if you can keep the air out, then it lasts longer. Compostable packaging didn't allow it to. So, and then there was also customer wish composting. They would, for example, that wasn't with our packaging, but what happened with composting infrastructures, like even here in Boulder, was people were hoping things were compostable that weren't. It contaminated the compost and mixed in with the crop root compostable things. Before you know it, the composting facilities couldn't keep up with it. So that was a challenge, right? So
A1 actually stopped commercial composting for the entire Front Range, Boulder, Denver, Fort Collins, or whatever. You probably know more about this, but I did write about it at the time because people were putting, as you were saying, so much like aspirational composting, like plastic, crap, toxic stuff. And the farmers can't use compost if it has plastic in it.
It does not add value to your tomatoes. It does not add nutrients to your tomatoes. So even though we love the idea of waste diversion, it wasn't a perfect solution. And the infrastructural things kind of proved that. So what is the ideal? I mean, refilling, right? Go to New Foods, refill your coffee jar, and don't create any waste. Bring something to your roaster, try to fill it up. So we came up with these to try to come up with a different option from compostable aluminum. We, have talked about that. My biggest challenge with our cans is people keep choosing the bag. For some reason, they don't like
because they think coffee in bags is coffee now.
I think that it's just what they're used to. They go for what they're used to. And
but when I was a kid, even I'm older than you, coffee was in tins still. Like that was just normal. So can we get back to that? Because that wasn't rocket science.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone had all those tins in their garages all over America because they would reuse the tins or recycle them.
Totally. I think we totally can. And maybe it's just a matter of experiments. Maybe I need to keep experimenting with different tin types until somebody says, I want to buy that coffee.
Well, Brandon,
it's not in a bag.
You just said, this is coffee.
Right. Coffee can of beans. I don't know.
So how is it as an entrepreneur, like trying to do something eco in a capitalism kind of world? We love to blame capitalism, but not ourselves. I mean, I think it's very interesting that people, they're cheaper than a plastic bag, same amount, and people buy the plastic bag. So it's on us. I'm a big fan of accountability, but like, how does it feel swimming upstream, trying to do something right and compromising constantly because you have to, because you're in this world to keep your business alive? What's that struggle like? Is it fun? Is it frustrating?
I think it's fun. You know what? Because we're trying, and almost everyone isn't. So
they're not even trying.
And some people care, and I love when they do. And I also think that there's other ways we can try to make small steps, like reducing the packaging to product ratio. So like buying in bulk. I mean, bulk is still better. Because you have like less plastic to the product.
Less shipping.
So we started selling like big 5-pound bags online, just direct to people's houses and stuff. And things like
Could
that.
you do a 5-pound like bucket?
We totally
like
do. In fact, we do that with some of our local. We have local pickups. We do refillable, buckets.
Well, like once I'm in Indianapolis, I need a little tin bucket.
You help me figure out the logistics, and we'll make it happen.
Deal. Love that.
Yeah, so it's fun. We're trying, and we're also trying to show that we're trying. We just got Benefit Corporation certified. I think if you see a B Corp logo, it means that brand's really trying.
The B in the circle, B Corp.
Yeah, Benefit Corporation. It means we exist, basically to do public good more than just profit. So we've examined every aspect of our business. So I think if you're looking for coffee and you see a B Corp logo, there's a good chance it's organic or definitely fair trade. Good chance that it's environmentally, sustainably grown. And I think that would be a quick way to shortcut a lot of this. Because
there's so many certifications and confusion, I guess. But I mean, just generally, just look for organic, regenerative, fair trade, direct trade if it's real. Like, who cares on some level? Just find one of them. It's probably better than 95% of the rest.
And coffee's great because you can just have a conversation with someone. There's always a coffee shop or a place to talk to your coffee purveyor. So look for the organic, have a conversation with them. Just, hey, what do you know about the farm it's coming from? You know?
Yeah. I think what's discouraging for me, because I love cafes and people, is I'm biking around all the time working on Elephant. And I just feel like I'm thinking about Indianapolis right now, but in Boulder too, although you point out Ozo, but there's just very few cafes that do any of those. It's not fair trade. It's not organic. It's tons of plastic packaging. It's, that's discouraging to me.
I agree. Okay. And I love your thoughts. I mean, what gives you hope in with everyone you interview through Elephant, what gives you hope about, for some of the eco brands trying to navigate this stage of capitalism?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jane Goodall just passed, and she was an idol of mine. Yeah.
Mine too.
She talked a lot about hope, and she said, you have to have hope, and you have to go after that hope. You have to actively go after it, not just think about it. And without that hope, we're lost. And I think that was a good reminder for me, because Elephant was probably honestly, the number one interviewer of companies at Natural Products Expo, where your kind of companies are. And even in that sea of thousands of companies, usually we'd find 18 or 15 that we actually admired. That doesn't mean they were perfect. They're flawed, deeply flawed, many of them, but they were trying, and they were trying, you're trying. And so I have to say, overall, I don't think there really is hope beyond people deciding to care. And if people decide not to care because it's easier or because it's normalized, I don't think there is hope. And I think I've interviewed a lot of climatologists, climate experts, and off the record, usually, they won't usually say it on the record. They'll say it's hopeless. We're way beyond the line. And that's why I think Jane Goodall's reminder was so powerful for me. That even if it's hopeless, Yvonne Chouinard said this. He said, the world may be totally effed, but I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and do my best to help in any small way I can. And I think that's just that's the hope. I always think of the last scene of Schindler's List, where Oscar Schindler is this gold pin, I could have sold it and saved one more life. Every tree in the rainforest matters. Every animal in the rainforest, it may feel meaningless to people, but it's so full of joy and meaning to do the right thing, because you're feeding the wolf that will heal the world. And I think, I was just hanging out with my friend Amy, and she was like, oh, can I get you this beautiful chocolate, for your wife, Kelsey, and you? And it was in plastic. And I was like, oh, no, thanks. We try to avoid the plastic. And she was like, wow, you guys are really extreme about that or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I said, plastic is climate change and it's toxic. It's not good for, I just said it sort of quickly. She was like, yeah, it's a good reminder. I need to get better on that. And she's an amazing environmentalist. So this is no shade on her, but we have to stop normalizing toxicity. A lot of people say, oh yeah, Trump, he's a bad guy. Maybe he's a rapist. There's a lot of things, but we're actively doing bad things every single day. And the point of that is not to say we should be guilty, because guilt is sort of useless unless it inspires us to be the change, not to be too corny. But the fact that you told me a year or two ago, is a successfully struggling entrepreneur, because this is a struggle being an entrepreneur and caring, that slavery and coffee have something to do with each other. That really stuck with me. And I think ethics are fun. I think I brought up Amy because she said, wow, you're really sacrificing, or something like that. And I was like, I don't see it that way. Yeah, there's moments when you're like, God damn, it's hard to do things against the stream of capitalism. But 90% of the time, my life is full of joy and meaning and caring. And that's an active choice, not a passive one.
Yeah, totally. I mean, what's that quote? It's an unexamined life is not worth living. Yeah,
Thoreau. That's who my treehouse here is named after.
Also one of my heroes.
Yeah.
But yeah, an unexamined business is not worth starting, in my opinion. It's like, what are we doing? We aren't going to start another business if we're not going to actually be better than what's out there and be better than the status quo. If the status quo is something that's breaking our hearts,
Yeah.
we're need to do better. It's not going to be as cheap as it was to get here, but there's ways to be frugal by brewing coffee at home.
And I do think the balance can flip, like Nude Foods, they pay more money because they're small than Whole Foods, Amazon pays because they can buy in vast quantities or control the market or promote, they have a lot of power. Nude Foods, this little zero waste grocery doesn't. But the more people who like invest in their local grocery or their farmer's market or their farm, and more power goes over there, the buying power flips. Like that's the point of unionizing, right? So we actually there's nothing inherently more expensive about being free of pesticides. Poison is a relatively recent way to negotiate pests or insects. A lot of pests aren't pests. The ecosystem's out of balance. Anyway,
You're right.
so there's a lot there. But, I will say from my point of view over here, having interviewed so many brands, I get flown out to natural products and the main question they'd want me to interview people about is like, what's this year's trend? And I was like, I don't get that question. Like, who cares what trends are? Let's look for like integrity and organic and like, if that's a trend, cool. But I don't care about like trends. It's such a weird term when you're talking about food and nature. So yeah, I think the trend we all need to support is an ethical company trying to do the right thing. So please go to Peak State. He won't promote his company. This is not an ad. This is an interview. So I would criticize you all I want, but go to Peak State and try to buy zero waste, plastic free, or try to find local cafes that are doing the right thing wherever you live.
Yeah. Or just if you disagree with any of this, let's have a conversation. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
I'd love to